Français 4, reprise du conditionnel. So last time we reviewed the future simple, and now we are going to review the conditionnel, which works very similarly to the future simple and uses some components of the future simple along with the endings of the imperfect. So let's get started with our review. The conditionnel is used to describe what would happen in certain circumstances. So only in certain conditions. Whenever you would say, I would go to the store if I had the money. That is going to be the conditionnel. The conditionnel is the easiest tense to conjugate in French. And if you've been paying attention to the other tenses that we've done, this tense is going to be so easy, you're not going to believe it. To form the conditionnel, you're going to start with the future stem. That's it. No new anything to memorize. Whatever you would use for the future, whether it's regular or irregular, if it has a spelling change, that's what you're going to use to start the conditionnel. And ready for this? Then you're going to add your imperfect endings. So you don't even have any new endings to memorize. You are simply going to use all of the endings from the imperfect that you should already know from when we learned the imperfect. The stem for the conditionnel is always the same as the stem for the future simple. That means that if the stem for the future simple has a spelling change, for example with acheter, where you have to remember to add the accent, or if it's irregular, like être being ser, that same change happens in the conditionnel. So again, whatever you start with for the future, you're going to start with for the conditionnel. And then the endings for the conditionnel are the same as the endings for the imperfect. And just in case you've forgotten those endings, let's take a look at what they are. For je, it's AIS, tu, AIS, il, elle, on, AIT, nous, IONS, vous, IEZ, il and elle pluriel, AIENT. These endings are really, really important because, again, you're starting with exactly what you started with for the future. So if you don't have the endings right, it could be confused for the future instead of the conditionnel. Okay, here's the good news. There are no irregulars in the conditionnel. All verbs follow the pattern. It doesn't matter what verb you're talking about in French, you can always take your future stem and add the imperfect ending and get the conditionnel. Now, of course, this assumes that you remember your future stems and imperfect endings. And this is why it's so important to learn our little pieces along the way, because then when you get to things like this, it's super easy. Examples. I would see. Je verrai. Starting with the irregular beginning for voir and then adding my imperfect ending. She would go out. Elle sortirait. Starting with the infinitive because that's what I do for sortir and adding my imperfect ending. We would read. Nous lirions. Starting with the infinitive, taking off the E, because that's what I do for RE verbs, and adding my imperfect ending. The girls would be tired. Les filles seraient fatiguées. Starting with my irregular stem for être and adding my imperfect ending. So now you have some practice to do on conjuguemos. Make sure that you go through and pay attention to your future stems and your imperfect endings. And we will do some practice on this in class.